Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Now this is a rather nice piece of cherry, but we're not going to make what you're thinking we're going to make. It's not going to be a vase, it's not even going to be a lamp, and it's certainly not going to be a bowl. We're going to make something I've never tried before, and I think it should be quite fun, hopefully. Right, I don't need all of it, I generally just need this section here. So before we get too deep in what we're going to do, I'm just going to quickly take this over to the bandsaw, chop it off about there, and then come back. See you in a second. Okay, there it is, all cut to size. We've got a bit of worm damage up the top here, which hopefully isn't going to affect us too much. The wood apart from that looks fairly clear, so we'll get this marked up, finding the center of each end, get it on the lathe and get it round, and then we can start talking about what we're going to try and make. Okay, now we're holding it fairly gently between centres at the moment because I just want to be able to fine tweak it to make sure we're getting as much out of this wood as possible. Now, the main area where I can see where there seems to be some sort of discrepancy is this kind of section here. It goes from out there to about a good ½ an inch inside. So if we can just move it this way, oop, half an inch. I think that's about as good as we're going to get it. Right, so I'm going to tighten this down all the way so we're nice and safe, and then we can start getting this round. Now I mentioned at the start that we are not making a vase, we're not making a lamp. There's quite a few things we're not making, but what we are making is a speaker for my phone. It's not going to be powered, so there's no electronics involved. The sound is purely amplified by the shape we create. So first things first is we're going to get this round and then start taking a look at the wood and deciding first of all which is going to be the top and which is going to be the bottom, or which is going to be the closed end and which is going to be the open end, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, initially we are going to be turning at about 950 RPM, and we're starting off with a 1-inch spindle roughing gouge. Okay, that was a little bit dustier than we normally get with cherry, but I'm sure we're going to be all right. Now, we've got to decide which is going to be the top, which is going to be the bottom. In other words, which end is going to have the phone sat in it, and which end is going to be the flute, funnel, trumpet, whatever it's called, that bit. And there's no clear winner at the moment. We've got a big dip out this end, which means that this could be a good for the bottom bit, and on this side we've got a little crack which goes down to there, which means that this could also be good for the bottom end. Now, the slightly wider opening I think is on this side, so I'm going to use this as the top. This is going to be the bottom where the phone's going to sit, so I will create a small tenon on here so we can turn it around and then start shaping it. Okay, that'll do us nicely. I'll release it from here, put it into some jaws, and then we can start making a shape. Okay, right, we're all about ready to start creating a shape. Now, quick apologies. First of all, I hadn't turned on that camera there. Purely an oversight on my behalf. And the ramifications of that is that that camera has the other end of the lavalier mic, so the audio may have been a little bit strange or different at the start. I apologise. These things happen on a regular basis, apparently. Right. Secondly, in case I didn't mention it before, I've also got a cold, so again my voice isn't going to be brilliant, but we will struggle on the best we can. Now, we've got to try and create a fairly specific shape. Obviously it's going to be like a trumpet design or a megaphone. I'm sure there's a proper name for it, but the idea is that we're going to be going out to the edges like that. Now, somewhere around here we're going to need to cut a hole for our phone to sit in, so the speakers on the phone are inside this, and this shape will amplify the music, and then we can come up with some sort of design on the back end. Now this is going to sit by itself, so we're going to have to figure out how it's going to sit, whether or not we flatten one side or make some little feet for it. I'm not sure yet, but I think the first thing we should do is start to try and have a look at creating this flute shape. Now, one thing I do need to bear in mind is the hole width. If you look at a mobile phone, on the base, that's the speakers there that we are wanting to have sat inside. So I'm going to quickly measure just outside of these two, so I can ensure that this hole is cut in the right place and we don't make this wood taper too small. Okay, that hole is 2 inches, so I'm going to actually write it on here. Just make sure I don't turn that away at some point. 2 inches. So the outside edge, we want a bit of wriggle room, so make it a 3-inch width there. So we don't want to go necessarily thinner than that in that area. Okay, I moved back onto the spindle roughing gouge because it's an awful lot better at moving material quicker than my normal bowl gouge, so we've just cracked on with that. Now, I've never made one of these before, so my head's starting to try and go through the processes I need to work out in order to create this successfully. And when I started cutting, it started up here, I was thinking, how do I know that this angle I'm putting in here is going to be correct for the rest of the shape? So then I started taking down this area, thinking that it's probably best to get this diameter around here where the phone's going to sit correct first, and then once I know the starting point and the ending point, then I can work out the angle between those fairly easily. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set some calipers up to 3 inches, like we said, and turn this section down here to that 3-inch mark, and then we can start working that flat area up into the top and get a nice even curve. Okay, probably do with going a little bit narrower, but that'll do for now to make sure we've got some sort of wiggle room as we proceed. Right, so I guess we need to figure out some sort of curve to take us from here to here. What do you think? Actually doesn't look too bad, does it? I know we haven't flattened off this top yet, but overall I think that should do us pretty well. Right, what do we do now? I'm asking you because I really don't have a clue. Right, let me have a quick think for a second. Okay, right, I've had a good think. I think what we need to do is first of all just go down here a little bit, keeping that same width there, and then I want an angle on the back going in, and then some sort of shape on the back to finish this piece off, design wise. Exactly what shape this needs to be I'm not sure, but it needs to be definitely in from this width, so it'll sit at an angle on the surface, so it's projecting the volume upwards into the room as opposed to just straight out at knee level. So okay, this has got to come in some sort of shape, possibly bulbous, I don't know. Okay, I think I'm going to have a play around with this area. I'm going to go up here a little bit, and then I'm just going to see what comes to me as I'm whittling it down. Okay, it's okay. I think this cold is slightly dulling my brain, and I'm not getting the most out of this I think I should, but we're doing okay. I've got an angle on this flat here which will hopefully sit nice and square once it's on a surface to project. We will need to flatten a bit off, but we can do that very, very simply with a bit of sandpaper. We just have to make sure that we flatten off the right side, because if our hole's on the top, then we have to flatten off right bang opposite it, otherwise it's going to look incredibly strange. But we can worry about that a little bit later on. What happens past this point, I really don't know yet. It may just go to a shallow curve, it may just go to a gradual point. I haven't quite decided yet, but I don't think I need to quite yet. Now, I think I just want to sort out this top rim first, and we'll just flatten this off, and then we can either think about hollowing out or cutting our hole. We've got to hollow out first before we cut the hole. So let's just flatten this rim, get it looking better, and figure out what we do next. Okay, that's all nice and flat and looking good. Now, I do get asked an awful lot by people every week, where can people buy my work? And now, as a rule, I don't generally try and sell it. What usually happens is that my wife tells me that we've got too many, she's sick of dusting them, and I need to get rid of a few. And at that point, I would put a few on eBay. But I've decided to take things a little bit more seriously. There's some more pieces of equipment which are quite expensive that I would love to get. So I have taken the very big decision to start putting a few on my actual website. So here's VoiceOver Mike to tell you a little bit about it. This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Now, I've been selling merchandise through my website for a while now using dropshipping, which is a great simple way to get into online retail. But now that I'm selling my own handmade pieces,
I've really discovered how powerful Squarespace's selling tools are. To keep them separate from the merchandise, I set up a new store by customizing one of their templates, and once I had it how I wanted, I started adding products. Squarespace makes it easy to include everything you'd expect from a professional shop: descriptions, images, and even video links, plus shipping information so I can sell worldwide. And it's not just physical items. You can sell digital products, training courses, and much, much more. So if you've got your own projects piling up like mine, then why not give Squarespace a try? Head to www.squarespace.com/MikeHolton to start your free trial. And when you're ready to launch, use the code MikeHolton for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
Okay, so the next step now is to hollow out. So I shall set up for that, and I'll bring you back in a second. Okay, I'm going to let everything cool down for a while, let all the moisture evaporate, and then we can come back and carry on hollowing out. Okay, it's all cooled down nicely, so we'll start to hollow this out nice and gently, nice and slowly, and hopefully we won't make any mistakes. We're going to try and go for about 1/4 of an inch thickness, I think, something like that. Okay, progress is going well. It's always tricky hollowing into end grain, but if we take it nice and slow, we should be okay. Now, I must admit, I was expecting far more drama than that. Now, before I take away my steady rest and start some sanding and some finishing off on the outside, I just quickly want to sort this rim, because as soon as I take this steady rest away, then it's going to make things an awful lot more difficult for things like this. Okay, I like that edge. It's done pretty nicely. Now before we start any sanding, I just need to try and do a few more bits on this outside, and then we can sand it all together. Okay. Right, I'm thinking I'm just going to go for a very gentle dome on the back or something like that. Right, okay, I'm going to set up for sanding, inside and out. We'll be stopping around there because we still need to finish off that area. I'll let you watch a bit of it, and I shall bring you back when we're done. Okay, sanding went well, so I'm just going to put a sealer on it now, just to help protect the wood while we're doing more horrible things to it. Now, part of me really wanted to ebonize the inside to darken it, but I'm not going to do it on this occasion. I may do it if I ever make another one, but I'll save this one from that experience. Right, so we're going on as usual with a blonde shellac. I'll apply it with a brush. This will help even up any inconsistencies in the wood. It'll give us a nice firm basis to put an abrasive paste on, and then the final finish. Now I'm putting some around there, although that is all going to be turned, but I'll put some on anyway. Right, make sure the inside gets a good coating as well. Right, when this dries, I am going to come back and cut it back with an abrasive paste, and then we're going to have a go at cutting the slot for the phone. Right, we'll come back when that's dry. Okay, that's all nice and dry, so we're going to go on with Northern Grit abrasive paste. Remember, when you use this stuff or any other abrasive paste, that you always wear safety glasses. I could do with borrowing somebody with smaller hands for this. Love it. That's made a wonderful difference. Right, I'm going to wipe down with a bit of isopropyl alcohol. Get any excess grit off. Okay, right, I'll let this dry while I try and figure out how I'm going to cut a hole in there. Okay, I've had a few ideas. Now, what I've set up so far is a bit of tape around the piece that I can mark directly on and not mess up completely. I've put this tool rest on this side at the halfway height, which I think is where I want to cut down to. Now the next thing I want to do is we've got this little split on the front there. Now I would like that to be drop dead center of the piece. I want that to be at the very bottom. Now I've got it locked off at the moment, but it's not at the center. So I just need to release my chuck slightly. Just very slightly. A little bit more. Just so I can give that a little, oh come on, turn. There we go. Just so I can give it a little turn so it's right at as good as I can get it as bottom middle. Right, I'll re-tighten that. Right, that's back up tight. So we've got that right in the bottom on the middle. That's marking the side here. Right, okay. Pencil. Right, can't find a pencil, but I've got a very fine black marker. And I'm just going to mark that halfway point. Now the lock on this is 24 positions, so if I go around 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, technically that should be halfway on the other side. Right, I do need to check this, so I'm going to go 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Mark that. Now, those two should be the same distance apart. There has to be an easier way than this. Okay, right, that worked. Wow. What we have to do now is draw our line that we're going to cut along, which is going to be even scarier. Wrong pen. Right. one line. How thick do we want it? I should probably... Blimey. Right. All we've got to do now is saw that out. Now, what I'm thinking, I am going to hand saw through these lines, but one thing I want to do first is to put a chisel mark on this section here and here, so it's got somewhere to stop. It doesn't kind of drag that wood in with it. I think that's the correct thing to do. Right, I'll do that now. Okay, this is the closest I can get size-wise. Do the same on the other side. Now, one thing I'm scared of is that when I start sawing, that tape comes off. I don't think there's an awful lot I can do, except maybe put a bit more around this side and keep my fingers crossed. Right, we'll lock this off and start sawing. Right. I guess what we do now is try and chisel it out. I guess that's the best way. Alright, we'll give that a go. Right, let's actually start a bit further. Do I start further up and then just slowly work it out? I think I need a change of underpants. Jeez. Okay. Right, let's just do a dry run. You have a hole. Of course it doesn't fit. Why would it fit? Right. Okay, I'm going to have to widen this hole a little bit. And have a little lie down. And then we'll continue tidying this up. Okay, after much sanding, it fits. I am so pleased. So I think what we can all learn from that is go a little bit bigger than you think. But at least it's done. And now, because we did have to sand for half an hour, we've got beautifully finished inside edge there, which is nice. Right, I think we're going to put a final finish on this so we can rub it in with the machine spinning, and then we need to sort out this back little area that we can sand and finish off as well. I think what I'll do to make this simple as possible is I'll get this close to being parted off as I can, and then we'll put the finish on, and then it's just purely a case of buff it up, nip it off there, and just give a little bit of a sanding. Right, any more than that, I'm tempting fate. Right, there's plenty there to sand. Okay, right, let's get a final finish on this. Right, we're going to go on with a Howard feed and wax. I think for this kind of piece it's going to be absolutely ideal. It's nice and hard wearing. It's going to do everything we want it to do. So we're going to give it a good covering on the inside and the out and in the hole. We'll leave it for 20 minutes and then we shall buff it off. When that's done, I will part this off, sand the bottom again, put some more Howard feed and wax on, and then together we will put a flat spot on it so it sits correctly, and then we'll test it out. Okay, right, I'll see you all in a little bit when we're flattening the base. Okay, I've got this all set up on my little bobbin sander. I've got this piece of wood stuck through the hole that the foam goes into, and that's hopefully going to keep it nice and square, so we're only going to be sanding the direct opposite side to the hole. That's the plan anyway, so I'm going to hold this nice and firmly. I'm going to keep on going along the sandpaper until I think I've got enough. Then we'll give it a quick test, and then we'll go back again until we're done. I'm nervous. Right, I think that is going to do it. If it does need more in the future, I can come back and take a little bit more off, but at the moment, feeling the way I do, I think that is going to do us just fine. Right, I'll get this all sorted out, and then we'll take a final look at what we've done and give it a quick test as well. Well, there we go. A rather pretty amplification device made from cherry. And I must admit, I've never been quite so pleased to get to the end of a project. This cold I've got at the moment, I know it's probably man flu and it's all in my head or something like that, but it made thinking very, very difficult throughout this. And if there's one thing you need to be able to do when taking on a project you've never done before, is think. So there's a few areas where I was struggling a little bit and begging for help, but we got there in the end. And I'm quite pleased with it. I do love the cutout. That was probably the one thing that I was the most scared of. But with a slow, methodical approach and about half an hour of sanding, the foam fits beautifully. And it looks quite tidy as well. Now, I suppose the best thing to do now is to give it a test. So I've got this camera right here set up so I can blast audio straight into its microphone. Or into its camera. I'm not quite sure exactly where the microphone is, but I'm going to point the audio directly at it, and I'll be able to isolate that phone when I come to edit, and we will see if there's a difference. So, first of all, without the device, what do you think? Can you hear a difference? I think it does work. I think there's improvements to be made. I think this could be larger. So at the moment it's very directional. It's almost like a beam of audio coming out. It can only spread the sound so far. But that's okay. The first time you do something, it's always a learning process. And I think the shape's okay, but I think it just needs to be about another 2 or 3 inches longer and end up somewhere out there. Please let me know in the comments what your opinion is. It's certainly been fun. I've certainly enjoyed every moment. So no matter what happens, I'm happy. Well, before we sign off for the day, I would like to say a massive thank you to Steve and Anne for supporting the channel this week through Buy Me a Coffee and through YouTube as well. If you do want to help support the channel, then there's always a link at the end and in the description. If you've enjoyed it, I would really appreciate a like and subscribe and all the usual things, and if you could share it as well, then that would be absolutely amazing. Don't forget that if you do have any thoughts on this, if you do leave a comment, then you are going to be entered into the next giveaway the next time one comes along. I must also say a massive thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Don't forget that if you do need a website, then I would encourage you to go and try their system out, because it is absolutely fantastic. And of course, if you are one of the people who have asked me, where can you buy my work, then I can now give you a proper answer. I'll be making the shop live as soon as this video goes live. So 3 PM on Tuesday, the new shop will be live. So anyway, thank you very much indeed for watching, and I'll see you all next time.